Rebecca handed me the ultrasound at campaign headquarters, 8 weeks pregnant, then said, "It's not yours, Daniel, it's Graham's." The envelope was manila, that institutional medical beige that smells like antiseptic and anxiety. Millbrook Women's Clinic, printed across the top. I'd been looking for voter registration lists in her desk drawer, and there it was, heavy. You could feel something substantial inside before opening. I walked across the campaign office with it. 18 staffers working at folding tables, volunteers outside placing yard signs with our family photo. Rebecca was reviewing talking points with Jenna, our field organizer. She looked up when I approached, saw what I was holding, her face drained of color. "Becca," I said. My voice sounded normal, excited even. "Is this what I think it is?" She stood up quickly, too quickly. Jenna looked between us, confused. "Daniel, let me—" "We're having a baby?" The words hung there. 3 volunteers at the next table looked over. One smiled. Rebecca's hands were shaking. She took my arm, guided me toward the back office. The small room where we'd planned strategy sessions, where Graham had drawn out district maps on the whiteboard. She closed the door. "I'm pregnant," she said. 8 weeks. I reached for her hand, smiled. After 12 years of marriage, trying for another child after Sophie, she pulled away. "Daniel." Her voice cracked. "It's not yours." The words didn't make sense. 8 weeks, not mine. I looked at the ultrasound envelope in my hand, the weight of it, the clinic letterhead you could trace with your fingertip. "I don't understand." "It's Graham's." My ears started ringing. Brother, Graham, pregnant. The envelope crumpled slightly in my hand. Through the office door, I could hear phones ringing, volunteers laughing, the sounds of a campaign in full swing. We were ahead in the polls, 51 to 42%. 7 weeks until Election Day. How long? My voice was flat, clinical. 10 months. 10 months. The campaign had started 10 months ago, when Graham moved back to Millbrook to run my campaign, when I thought my older brother was finally supporting me instead of competing with me, when Rebecca became campaign spokesperson and they started working late nights on messaging strategy. Where? Daniel. Where, Rebecca? She looked at the floor. Different places, the Millbrook Motor Lodge mostly, sometimes the office, after everyone left. The office. This office. Where we were standing. Where I'd written thank you cards to volunteers, where I'd practiced speeches, where I'd believed we were building something that mattered. I opened the envelope. The ultrasound photo slid out. Black and white. That grainy image of something that looked almost human, but not quite. 8 weeks. The paper was cool to touch, still fresh from the printer. Were you going to tell me? I didn't know how. Before or after the election. Silence. You were going to wait, I said. Let me win first. Senator-elect Daniel Mitchell finds out his campaign manager brother got his wife pregnant. Great headline. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Rebecca? Explain it to me. But I already knew. 10 months of late-night strategy sessions. 10 months of Graham and Rebecca leaving together after midnight. Coming back the next morning with coffee and new poll analysis. 10 months of me being grateful they were so dedicated to the campaign. I'd been the mark in my own campaign. I need to get back out there, I said. We have a rally in 2 hours. Daniel, not now. I walked out, put the envelope in my jacket pocket, the ultrasound photo against my chest, right over my heart. 18 staffers looked up. I smiled. False alarm, I said to the room. Just some scheduling confusion. Jenna frowned but nodded. I grabbed my navy blue campaign blazer from the chair. On the lapel, a campaign button. Mitchell, teachers, not politicians. My face smiling up from the smooth plastic. 2,000 of these made. Metal pin on back that clicked when you fastened it. We distributed them at the campaign launch 10 months ago. 10 months ago, the campaign launch had been perfect. September of last year, before the leaves changed. 200 supporters crammed into the high school gymnasium where I'd taught American history for 12 years. Students, parents, former colleagues, signs everywhere. Mitchell for Senate in red, white, and blue. Graham had organized everything. He'd worked in Madison for years as a political consultant. ran campaigns for state representatives, knew the game. When he offered to move home and run mine, I'd almost cried, my older brother finally believing in me. "Ladies and gentlemen," Graham had said into the microphone, "my little brother has taught your kids for over a decade. He's taught them about democracy, about civic responsibility, about how government is supposed to serve the people, not the other way around." The crowd cheered. But the current senator? He blocked education funding. He voted against teacher pay increases. He doesn't represent Millbrook's values. More cheers. I stood backstage with Rebecca and Sophie. My daughter was 13 then, wearing a Team Mitchell t-shirt, holding a stack of campaign buttons. She'd helped design them. "Dad," Sophie whispered, "you're going to change things." Rebecca squeezed my hand. "We're going to change things. Together." Graham continued. "Daniel Mitchell isn't like other politicians. He's one of us, a teacher, a father, someone who shows up. And that's what we need in Madison." He looked backstage at me, gestured me forward. I walked out to applause. Saw Frank Kowalski, my former principal, in the front row. Saw my students, former students, holding homemade signs. Saw my mother, Carol Ann, 74 years old, crying with pride. I took the microphone. "We're not like the others," I said. "We're the honest ones." The crowd roared. Rebecca joined me on stage, kissed my cheek. Graham stood on my other side, arm around my shoulder. Sophie ran up with the campaign buttons, started handing them to people in the front row. The metal pins clicking, clicking, clicking. A photographer snapped a picture. That photo would end up on 4,000 yard signs across 6 counties. Our family. Smiling, united. Graham leaned close during the applause. "You're going to win this, brother. We're going to make sure of it." He'd already started sleeping with my wife. I didn't know that then. Didn't know that Rebecca's hand in mine was already someone else's. Didn't know that the late-night strategy sessions Graham proposed were cover for something else. Didn't know that every time they left campaign headquarters together, every time Rebecca came home at 2 in the morning, smelling like coffee and hotel soap, every time Graham texted me with new polling data, they were using my campaign to hide an affair. On the yellow legal pad where Graham planned debate strategy, there was a lipstick mark. Red, Rebecca's shade. I'd found it one morning and smiled. Thought she'd kissed the paper for luck before a tough negotiation. The coffee stain next to it, the way the paper was slightly warped where liquid had seeped in. I'd thought it meant they'd been working hard. Now I knew different. Now I knew what that lipstick mark really meant. The rally was in 3 hours. I drove home to change clothes, practice my speech. Sophie was at school. Rebecca stayed at campaign headquarters. Graham was meeting with the local party chairman, Tom Brady, about turning out the vote. My phone buzzed. Text from Graham. "Latest numbers just in. You're at 51-42. We're crushing it, brother. Victory is right there. Victory, built on lies." I sat in my car in the driveway. Our house, the one Rebecca and I bought 15 years ago. The yard sign on the lawn, our family photo, all 3 of us smiling. Red, white, blue corrugated plastic. Makes a hollow sound when you tap it. 4,000 of these across the district. My phone buzzed again. Frank Kowalski. "Daniel, looking forward to tonight's rally. You've got this. Make us proud." Make them proud. 200 volunteers had given up evenings and weekends, knocked on doors, made phone calls, handed out buttons and yard signs, believed in the message, believed in me. We're not like the others. We're the honest ones. I'd said that at the campaign launch, said it at every rally since, said it in the debate last month when my opponent called me naive. Senator Bradley, I'm not naive. I'm honest. And maybe that's so rare in politics that it looks like weakness to you. But to the people of this district, it's exactly what they want. Someone who tells the truth. Someone who doesn't play games. The moderator had asked, "Mr. Mitchell, how can voters trust that you'll stay true to your values once you're in Madison? Everyone says they're different. Then they get there and change." I'd look directly at the camera, at the 50,000 people watching live. "You watch if they stay consistent with their values even when it hurts them," I'd said. "That's how you know they're being honest." A student, my former student actually, Emily Chen from my advanced placement history class, had asked that same question when I visited her school during the campaign launch. "Mr. Mitchell, how do we know politicians are being honest?" "You watch their actions, Emily, not just their words. You watch if they stay consistent with their values even when it hurts them." She'd nodded, satisfied. Later, she'd signed up to volunteer. Now, I was 7 weeks from winning this election. 7 weeks from becoming Senator-elect Daniel Mitchell. 7 weeks from standing in front of those cameras and taking an oath to serve with integrity. All while hiding that my wife was pregnant with my brother's child. I got out of the car, walked inside, changed into my rally clothes, khakis, button-down shirt, navy blazer, the campaign button already on my lapel. I looked at myself in the mirror. "You can do this," I said out loud. 2 hours. Just smile for 2 hours. The ultrasound envelope was still in my jacket pocket. I pulled it out, looked at it again. 8 weeks pregnant. Due date probably May. Right around the time I'd be voting on my first bills in Madison if I won. When I won, because I was going to win. 51 to 42%. Graham's strategy was working. Rebecca's media coordination was perfect. We'd turned a small-town teacher into a legitimate threat to a 2-term incumbent. My phone buzzed. "Rebecca, people are already arriving. It's going to be packed. 300 supporters expected. Local TV would be there." This was momentum. This was victory forming. I put the envelope back in my pocket, straightened my tie, practiced my smile in the mirror, walked out the door. The rally was at Millbrook High's football field. Perfect September evening, warm sun, leaves just starting to turn. The bleachers filled up fast. I stood at the edge of the parking lot, watching people arrive. Families, students, teachers, Frank Kowalski with his wife, Pastor James Wright from Community Church, Tom Brady with a group of local Democratic committee members. My mother arrived with 3 of her friends from the senior center. She waved when she saw me, beaming. Graham pulled up in his truck, got out, walked over. "Daniel, perfect night for this. Look at this crowd." I looked at him, my older brother, 39 years old, always in my shadow when we were kids because I was the likable one, the one people naturally gravitated toward. He'd resented it. Then he'd moved away, become a political consultant, made good money. Came back a year ago saying he wanted to help. "Great crowd," I said. My voice sounded normal. "You ready? I've got your talking points refined. Hit the education funding hard. Mention the new poll numbers. Thank the volunteers, especially the youth group. They've been amazing." "Graham? Yeah?" I looked at him, really looked at him, saw my father's eyes, my father's jawline. We looked alike. People always said that. Said we could be twins if not for the age difference. "Nothing," I said. "Just thanks for everything." He clapped my shoulder. "That's what brothers are for." Rebecca arrived then. She'd changed clothes, put on makeup, looked camera ready. Our spokesperson, our media coordinator, the woman who'd stand beside me on stage in front of 300 people and pretend we were still a team. "Daniel," she touched my arm. "We need to talk before—" "Not now. Please, Rebecca, I have a speech to give. We'll talk later." Graham looked between us, frowned. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said. "Let's do this." We walked toward the stage, a temporary platform set up at the 50-yard line. Jenna was testing the microphone. Volunteers wearing Mitchell for Senate t-shirts were handing out campaign buttons, taking photos. Sophie was there with 3 of her friends, all wearing the buttons, holding signs. She saw me and ran over. "Dad, Mrs. Palmer's entire book club is here, and Mr. Kowalski brought like 20 people from church. This is amazing." I hugged her, felt the ultrasound envelope in my pocket press against my chest. This child right here, this 14-year-old girl who believed in me, who'd spent her summer knocking on doors, who'd told her friends her dad was going to change the world. How was I going to tell her? "You nervous?" Sophie asked. "A little." "Don't be. You're the best speaker ever. Just be yourself. Be yourself. Don't be like the other politicians. Be the honest one." "Thanks, honey." "Oh, Mom," Sophie called Rebecca over. "Can you get a picture of me and Dad before the rally starts?" Rebecca walked over, phone already out. Smiled that spokesperson smile. "Of course, sweetie. Stand close." I put my arm around Sophie. She held up a campaign sign. Rebecca took 3 photos. "Perfect," Rebecca said. "These will be great for social media. Daniel, we should probably—" A volunteer approached. "Mr. Mitchell, they're ready for you." 300 people in the bleachers, local TV news crew setting up, party officials in the front row, students holding my former students' homemade signs. Frank Kowalski took the microphone first. "Good evening, Millbrook. Are we ready to make history?" Cheers. I had the privilege of being Daniel Mitchell's principal for 8 years. I watched him transform our history department. I watched him stay late every single day to help struggling students. I watched him coach debate team, sponsor student government, chaperone every dance. This man doesn't just talk about service, he lives it. More cheers. I stood at the side of the stage, Rebecca to my left, Graham to my right. And now, Frank continued, he's going to bring that same dedication to Madison. Please welcome the next state senator from Wisconsin's 23rd District, Daniel Mitchell. I walked on stage to applause, 300 people on their feet. I saw my former student Emily Chen in the third row, holding her phone up to record. Saw Pastor Wright clapping. Saw my mother with tears in her eyes. I took the microphone, smiled. Thank you, Millbrook. Thank you for showing up tonight. My voice was steady, strong, teacher voice. The voice I'd used for 12 years in classrooms full of teenagers who could smell uncertainty. 7 weeks from today, we're going to win this election. Cheers. I could feel Graham behind me, could sense Rebecca at the side of the stage, the ultrasound envelope against my chest. We're going to win because we've run a campaign based on truth, based on serving our community, based on the values that actually matter. I paused, looked out at the crowd. My opponent has been in Madison for 12 years, 12 years of blocking education funding, 12 years of voting against teacher pay raises, 12 years of serving special interests instead of serving you. Applause? I was hitting my marks perfectly. The talking points Graham had prepared, the emotional beats Rebecca had coordinated. But we're different. The crowd quieted, leaning in. We're not like the others. We're the honest ones. The cheers were deafening. Campaign buttons glinted in the fading sunlight. Red, white, blue yard signs waving. My family photo smiling from 4,000 corrugated plastic rectangles across 6 counties. I finished the speech, hit every point, thanked the volunteers, promised to fight for education, for working families, for Millbrook's values. When I walked off stage, people swarmed me. Handshakes, photos, volunteers asking me to sign their buttons. Frank pulled me aside during the chaos. Daniel, are you okay? Yeah. Why? Your hands were shaking the entire time. I looked down. He was right. My hands were trembling. Had been since I took the microphone. Just adrenaline, I said. Frank studied me. Former principal's intuition. If you need to talk, I'm fine, Frank. Really, just excited. He nodded slowly. Didn't believe me. But what was I going to say? My wife and my brother have been sleeping together for 10 months. She's pregnant with his child. I'm 7 weeks from winning a Senate seat based on a campaign that's built on a lie. If you've ever had to smile in public while falling apart inside, had to give that presentation, attend that event, keep it together when everything in you is screaming, you know what that feels like. You know about that performance. I drove home alone. Rebecca stayed at headquarters with Graham to coordinate social media posts from the rally. Strike while the iron's hot, Graham had said. We need to get these photos up tonight, show momentum. Momentum built on their affair. Sophie had gone to a friend's house, Maya Rodriguez's family. They were making campaign posters for the youth volunteer group. I sat in my car in the driveway. Our house, our yard sign, our life that wasn't real anymore. My phone buzzed. Graham, polling data just came in from today. You're at 51 to 42, Daniel. We're winning. Another rally like tonight, and we'll be up by 15 points. Another text. Rebecca, Sophie asked if I'm coming home tonight. I said yes. We need to talk. Please. What was there to say? She was pregnant with my brother's child. 10 months of lying. 10 months of pretending while I thanked volunteers and wrote personal notes and believed we were building something that mattered. I went inside. The house was quiet, too quiet. I walked through rooms where Sophie had grown up, where Rebecca and I had planned our future, where I'd graded papers late into the night, where we'd celebrated anniversaries and birthdays and promotions. There were campaign materials everywhere, signs in the garage, buttons on the kitchen counter, a box of thank you cards I'd been writing by hand to volunteers. 200 of them, cream cardstock. My teacher handwriting, neat printing, careful and personal. Each one unique, each one thanking someone by name for their specific contribution. Dear Frank, Your introduction at the rally meant the world. Thank you for believing in me since my first day teaching. I'll make you proud. Daniel. Dear Emily, seeing my former student volunteer has been one of the best parts of this campaign. You're going to change the world. Keep asking the hard questions. Mr. Mitchell. Dear Pastor Wright, your prayers and support have sustained me through this. Grateful to have you in my corner. Daniel. I picked up the stack. 200 cards. 200 people who believed the message, who believed in me. The front door opened. Rebecca. Daniel. Sophie's at Maya's house, I said, making campaign posters. I know. Daniel, we need to... How long were you going to wait? She set her purse down, stood in the doorway. I don't know. I didn't plan this. Any of this. 10 months, Rebecca. You didn't plan it for 10 months? It just happened. Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't say it just happened. You made choices. He made choices. Every late night, every hotel room, every time you left campaign headquarters together while I stayed behind writing thank you cards. Silence. Does he love you? I asked. Daniel. Simple question. Does my brother love you, or was this just convenient? She looked at the floor. I don't know. We haven't talked about what happens after. After I win and become Senator Mitchell, and you're the senator's wife, and he's the campaign manager who got you pregnant? I laughed. It sounded bitter even to me. You must have talked about it. You must have planned something. We didn't plan for me to get pregnant. But you planned everything else. The affair, the cover story, using my campaign so you could be together without suspicion. I looked at her. Did he suggest that I run? Is that why Graham came back to Millbrook? Her face told me everything. Oh my God. You convinced me to run. It wasn't like that. You convinced me to run for Senate so you and Graham could have an affair under the cover of campaign work. I was the mark, Rebecca, in my own campaign. Daniel, please. But I was done. I grabbed my keys. Where are you going? Campaign headquarters. We have debate prep in the morning. Final debate is in 4 weeks. 50,000 people watching. Can't let the mask slip now. Campaign headquarters at 9 p.m. was mostly empty. Jenna was still there, organizing volunteer schedules. 2 college kids were updating the phone bank database. Daniel? Jenna looked surprised. Didn't expect you back tonight. Great rally. Thanks. Just need to grab some files for debate prep. I went to the back office, the small room where Graham had planned strategy, where Rebecca had reviewed media talking points, where the yellow legal pad was still on the desk, Graham's handwriting. Debate prep, final 4 weeks. Coffee ring stained in the corner, and there, on the upper right corner, red lipstick mark. I'd seen it this morning, before I found the ultrasound. Thought it was sweet. Thought Rebecca had kissed the paper for luck. Now I saw it different. Now I knew that lipstick mark wasn't for the paper. It was for him. For Graham. A kiss after the door opened. Graham walked in. Daniel, didn't know you were here. He saw what I was holding. Oh, good. You found the debate prep notes. I refined the education section. I think if you lead with the funding statistics, then pivot to the personal story about how many times, I asked. What? How many times, Graham? In this office. In this room. He froze. I picked up the legal pad, held it up. The lipstick mark. I thought she kissed the paper, but she kissed you, didn't she? Right here, on this desk. My father's desk that I brought from home because it felt lucky. Graham's face went pale. How many times did you sleep with my wife in this room? Daniel, how many times? He didn't answer, couldn't meet my eyes. I set the legal pad down carefully, opened the drawer. There were campaign schedules, volunteer lists, strategy memos. And underneath, pushed to the back, a white plastic key card, Millbrook Motor Lodge, room 47. The corner was bent from being pulled from a wallet over and over. I held it up. This fell out of your wallet during strategy meetings twice. Both times Rebecca grabbed it before I could see. I thought you were staying at the motel because it was closer to headquarters than Mom's house. Graham reached for the key card. I pulled it back. How many times, Graham? I don't know. Approximate. Daniel, how many times? My voice echoed in the small office. Jenna and the college kids looked toward our door. Graham's voice was quiet. 23, the motel, plus other places. 23 times. 23 separate nights at the Millbrook Motor Lodge, room 47. Campaign credit card charges I'd signed off on without question, because Graham said we needed rooms for out-of-town volunteers. Other places? Hotels during the Madison Conference. The boat that one weekend. Here, a few times. The boat. Our family's boat. The one my father had left us. Where Graham and I had fished as kids. Where I'd taught Sophie to water ski. You took her on Dad's boat. I'm sorry. Sorry. 10 months of sorry. 10 months of sleeping with my wife while managing my campaign. 10 months of strategy sessions and polling data and debate prep. 10 months of me trusting him. I grabbed the key card, room 47. White plastic, slightly grimy, light, almost weightless. But it held all the weight in the world. I drove to Frank Kowalski's house at midnight. He answered the door in his bathrobe, took one look at my face, and let me in. Coffee? He asked. Please. We sat at his kitchen table, the same table where he'd helped me prepare my teaching portfolio 12 years ago, where he'd convinced me to apply for the history position, where he'd become more than a principal, a mentor, a friend, almost a second father after mine died. What happened? Frank asked. I told him. All of it. The ultrasound, Graham, 10 months, Rebecca's confession, the motel key card in my hand. Frank listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. What do you need? He asked finally. I need to know if I'm crazy for thinking about staying in this race. Are you? Thinking about it? Yes. Tom Brady called while I was driving over. Somehow he already heard rumors. Said we need to manage the situation. Said voters don't need to know about personal matters. Frank's expression darkened. Tom said that? He said I'm winning. Said the district needs me in Madison. Said marriages fail all the time, and it doesn't affect legislative ability. And what do you think? I looked at the motel key card on the table between us. Room 47. White plastic. Evidence of 23 betrayals. I think I spent 12 years teaching kids about integrity, about how democracy only works if we can trust our leaders, about how the founders designed a system that requires honesty. And if I hide this and win, I become everything I've been running against. Frank nodded slowly. But 200 volunteers gave up their time, thousands of dollars in donations. Sophie has told everyone her dad's going to change things. And I'm ahead, Frank. I'm actually going to win. At what cost? Before I could answer, Frank stood up, went to his study, came back with a manila folder. I wasn't going to show you this tonight, he said. Was going to wait until morning, but since you're here... He opened the folder. Inside, printed phone records, AT&T logo at the top, pages and pages of call logs and text messages. I'm the campaign treasurer, Frank said. I review all expenses. 3 weeks ago, I noticed irregularities in the campaign phone bill. A lot of texts and calls between two numbers during hours when people should be sleeping. He slid the pages across. Yellow highlighter screamed from every sheet. Rebecca's number, Graham's number, 400 text messages over 10 months. Calls at 2:47 a.m., 3:12 a.m., 11:58 p.m. The paper crinkled as I picked it up. Multiple pages stapled together. The chemical smell of fresh highlighter. Sharp paper edges. I cross-referenced the dates, Frank continued. Every late-night call corresponds to a campaign event the next day. Every cluster of texts happens when you were out of town for teacher conferences or visiting Sophie at camp. I flipped through the pages, saw the pattern, systematic, calculated. There's more, Frank said quietly. The motel charges. 23 separate charges to the Millbrook Motor Lodge over 8 months. All paid with campaign funds. All signed off by Graham as volunteer accommodation expenses. That's campaign finance violations. Yes. Misuse of donated funds for personal purposes. If this gets out, it's not just a scandal, it's potentially criminal. I set the papers down, stared at them. 400 text messages, 23 motel charges, 10 months of documented evidence. What do I do, Frank? That's not my decision, Daniel. But I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Those volunteers, they believed in a message, an honest teacher running against a corrupt system. If you hide this and win, you prove the system right. You prove that everyone's corrupt, everyone lies, and integrity doesn't actually matter. And if I expose it, you lose the race, Probably lose your teaching career. Hard to come back from this kind of public humiliation. Sophie's life becomes a nightmare at school. Your mother's heart breaks. Graham gets blackballed from political consulting. Rebecca, I don't know what happens to Rebecca. The baby? The baby deserves better than being born into this mess. We sat in silence. The phone records between us, evidence of everything I'd refused to see. Frank's voice was gentle. You used to tell your students something. I heard you say it at a school assembly once. Truth matters more than winning. Remember? I remembered. So, Frank said, does it? The next morning, I drove to Graham's construction site. He ran a small commercial contracting business on the edge of town. 3 trucks, a crew of 8 guys, mostly residential renovations. I found him in the yard, reviewing blueprints with his foreman. He saw me coming. His face changed. Can we talk? I asked. Guys, take 15, Graham told his crew. They scattered. Knew trouble when they saw it. Graham and I stood in the gravel yard, concrete dust in the air, the smell of sawdust and diesel, his truck behind him with the company logo. Mitchell Brothers Construction. Mitchell Brothers. I have the phone records, I said. His jaw tightened. 400 text messages, calls at 2, 3 in the morning. While I was home with Sophie, while I was writing thank you cards to volunteers who believed in us. Daniel, I have the motel charges 23 times. Campaign funds, Graham. You used donor money to pay for hotel rooms where you slept with my wife. I'll pay it back. You think that's what this is about? Money? I pulled out the phone records, threw them at him, pages scattered in the gravel, yellow highlighter visible on every sheet. Tell me something, I said. When did you decide? When did you and Rebecca decide that getting me to run for Senate would be the perfect cover for an affair? Graham didn't answer. Because that's what happened, isn't it? You came back to Millbrook a year ago. Let me help you, little brother. Let me run your campaign. And Rebecca was so supportive, so excited about me finally doing something important. It wasn't like that? Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Graham kicked at the gravel, wouldn't meet my eyes. We didn't plan it, the affair. It just happened. But you did plan the campaign. You convinced me to run so you'd have an excuse to be here, to work late nights with Rebecca, to travel together to conferences, to hide in plain sight while I thanked volunteers and knocked on doors. Silence. Say it, I demanded. Say you used me. Graham's voice was barely audible. We used you. The words hung in the air, concrete dust drifting, his crew watching from a distance, pretending not to. Why? I asked. Why not just leave? Why the elaborate charade? Graham finally looked at me. Because you're the one people love, Daniel. You're the teacher everyone adores, the nice guy, the one who always does the right thing. Me? I'm just the older brother who never measured up. So, this is about jealousy? This is about Rebecca seeing me, actually seeing me, not just Daniel Mitchell's campaign manager, not just the guy who handles logistics. She saw me for who I am. And who are you, Graham? My voice was cold. Because the Graham I knew, my brother, he wouldn't sleep with his brother's wife. He wouldn't use campaign donations for hotel rooms. He wouldn't manipulate someone into running for office just to have cover for an affair. People aren't perfect, Daniel. Not everyone's the golden boy. Golden boy? I'm a high school teacher, Graham. I grade papers and break up hallway fights and try to teach kids that integrity matters. That's not golden. That's just normal. Yeah, well, you're good at it. At being normal and likable and trustworthy. Some of us have to work harder. I laughed. It came out bitter. Work harder? You worked hard at destroying my marriage, at betraying every person who donated to this campaign, at making me look like a fool. Graham's face flushed. You think she loved you? You think your perfect marriage was real? I think it was real until you decided it wasn't. She hasn't loved you in years, Daniel, she told me. All those late nights you spent grading papers, preparing lessons, being teacher of the year. She was lonely. She was bored. She wanted more than Millbrook and PTA meetings, and being the wife of everyone's favorite teacher. So you offered her what? Senate wife, campaign manager's mistress, a baby born into a scandal? We didn't plan for her to get pregnant. But you planned everything else. I stepped closer. You planned to watch me win this election, watch me take that oath, watch me become Senator Mitchell while you and Rebecca, what? Kept going? How long were you going to wait before telling me? Graham didn't answer. Were you going to wait at all? Or were you just going to let me find out eventually? Let me figure it out when Rebecca was 6 months pregnant and couldn't hide it anymore. I don't know, Graham's voice cracked. I don't know what we were going to do. It's complicated. It's not complicated. You're sleeping with your brother's wife. She's pregnant with your child. I'm running for Senate on a platform of honesty while living a lie. That's not complicated. That's betrayal. One of Graham's crew members started walking toward us. Graham waved him off. What are you going to do? Graham asked quietly. I don't know yet. The election... Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't talk to me about the election. Don't talk to me about strategy or polling numbers or what's best for the campaign. You gave up that right when you decided sleeping with Rebecca was more important than my trust. I turned to leave, stopped. One more thing. Did you ever actually believe in me, in the campaign, or was I always just the mark? Graham's silence was answer enough. I drove away, leaving him standing in the gravel yard. In the rearview mirror, I saw him pick up the scattered phone records, yellow highlighter glinting in the morning sun. My phone buzzed. Text from Tom Brady. Daniel, we need to meet, now. This stays quiet or the race is over. Another text. Jenna. Hey, Lisa Chen called. Said she has information you need to see. Something about hotel footage? Hotel footage. I met Lisa Chen in a parking lot on the edge of town. She was our opposition research analyst, former investigative journalist, who'd worked for the Milwaukee paper before moving to Millbrook with her husband. She got in my car, handed me a small black USB drive. I wasn't looking for this, she said. Was doing standard opposition research on your opponent, but the hotel where we had the Madison conference in September, they have security cameras. When I requested footage of Senator Bradley's team for potential Oppo material, this came too. The USB drive was small, smooth plastic. Clicked in my hand. What's on it? I asked, though I already knew. September 12th, 11:47 p.m., the night of the conference closing reception. You'd left early because Sophie had a school event the next morning. The night Rebecca said she needed to stay for important professional development. The night I went home and made Sophie pancakes for breakfast because her mom was networking late. I need to know, Lisa said carefully. Are you aware that your campaign manager and your wife... I'm aware, she nodded, didn't ask more questions, professional discretion. What do you want me to do with this? Let me see it first. We went to her office, a small room she rented above the coffee shop downtown. She plugged the USB into her laptop. The video loaded, black and white security footage. Hotel hallway, timestamp, September 12th, 11:47 p.m. Rebecca and Graham entered the frame, holding hands, laughing about something. Rebecca's conference badge still around her neck. Graham carrying her overnight bag. They stopped outside, room 1214. Graham set down the bag, turned to Rebecca, put his hands on her waist, pulled her close, kissed her. Not a friendly kiss, not a mistaken kiss. A kiss that said they'd done this before, that said they belonged to each other. Rebecca's arms went around his neck. Graham pushed her against the wall, her fingers in his hair, his hands sliding down her back. They broke apart, breathless, smiling. Graham pulled out a key card, opened the door to room 1214. They went inside. The door closed. The hallway was empty. Timestamp kept running. 11:48 p.m., 11:49 p.m., 11:50 p.m. Lisa stopped the video. We sat in silence. That morning, I said quietly, Rebecca called me at 7 a.m., said the conference had run late. She'd gotten maybe 4 hours of sleep, asked if Sophie got to her event okay. I told her Sophie did great, asked if the networking was worth it. She said absolutely, said she'd made contacts that would help the campaign. Lisa's expression was pained. I'm sorry, Daniel. Don't be. You're doing your job. I looked at the frozen frame, Rebecca and Graham in that hallway. Can you give me a copy? Already on the drive. Thank you. Daniel? Lisa hesitated. I've worked on a lot of campaigns, seen a lot of scandals. This kind of thing, it destroys races. If you want to win, this has to stay buried. Nobody can know. And if I don't want to win, she studied me, then you're a better person than most politicians. But those volunteers who believed in you, they'll be devastated. That message about honest government, it dies with this campaign. Or, I said slowly, it proves the message was real, that I actually meant it. Lisa shook her head. Voters don't reward honesty like that. They reward winning. You expose this, you lose everything. Your opponent wins, gets another 6 years to block education funding, to ignore teacher concerns. Everything you wanted to change stays the same. But at least it's the truth. Truth is expensive, Daniel. Are you willing to pay the price? I took the USB drive, put it in my pocket next to the ultrasound envelope. Evidence of betrayal, proof that my marriage, my campaign, my brother's loyalty, all of it was a performance. I don't know yet, I said. Tom Brady's office was in downtown Millbrook, corner suite above the bank. He'd been party chairman for 15 years, weathered a dozen local scandals, knew how politics actually worked. He poured me scotch without asking. Sit down, Daniel. I sat. I'm going to be direct, Tom said. Graham called me this morning, told me everything, the affair, the pregnancy, the whole mess. Did he tell you about the campaign finance violations, the motel charges? Tom waved a hand. Minor issue, we'll get that cleaned up. Have Graham reimburse the campaign from personal funds. No harm, no foul. No harm? Daniel. Tom's voice was firm. Listen to me. You're ahead 54-39% in the latest poll. You're going to win this race. You're going to go to Madison and do good work for this district. The education reforms you want to pass, the teacher pay increases, the school funding, that all happens if you win. Built on a lie. Built on doing what's necessary to get into a position where you can help people. Tom set his glass down. You think Senator Bradley's marriage is perfect? You think every politician in Madison has a clean personal life? Politics is messy, Daniel, but the work matters more than the mess. He pulled out a document. New polling data, glossy paper, graphs showing my lead growing. 54-39, Tom said. 15-point lead with 7 weeks left. You're going to win by 20 points if you keep your head down and stay focused. One more debate, a few more rallies. Election night, you become Senator-elect Mitchell. And Rebecca? Marriage troubles happen. You file for divorce quietly after the election. Nobody needs details. Irreconcilable differences. The voters understand that. Hell, half of them are divorced. And Graham? He steps back from the campaign, takes a lower profile, maybe moves back to Madison after you're sworn in. You never have to work with him again. And the baby? Tom hesitated. That's more complicated. But Rebecca can handle that privately. Adoption, probably. Closed adoption, nobody knows. I looked at the polling data. 54-39. Victory right there. Everything I'd worked for. Everything 200 volunteers had sacrificed for. All I had to do was hide the truth. You're wearing our values, Tom said, pointing to the campaign button on my lapel. Teachers, not politicians. You are that teacher, Daniel. The one kids trusted, the one who changed lives. Don't throw that away because your marriage failed. My marriage didn't fail. It was destroyed by my brother while I was running a campaign about integrity. And you maintained that integrity by winning, by going to Madison and passing the bills you promised to pass, by making the changes you promised to make. Tom leaned forward. You think your opponent has integrity? You think Senator Bradley cares about honesty? He cares about power. And if you drop out or create a scandal, he wins. He gets another 6 years, and nothing changes. The polling data sat on the desk between us. 54-39. 15-point lead. Think about Sophie, Tom said quietly. If this becomes public, her life at school becomes hell. Everyone knowing her mom had an affair. Everyone pitying her. Is that what you want? Sophie, 14 years old, making campaign posters with her friends, telling everyone her dad was going to change the world. My phone buzzed. Text from Sophie. Dad, where are you? I'm home early from Maya's. Can we have dinner? Tom saw me reading it. That's what matters, Daniel. Your daughter, your volunteers, the work you can do in Madison. Not your pride, not some abstract concept of honesty. It's not abstract, I said quietly. It's the foundation of everything I taught for 12 years. And now you teach by example. You show kids that you can survive adversity, that personal problems don't stop you from serving others, that the work matters more than the scandal. He stood up, extended his hand. Stay in the race, Daniel. Win this election. Do the good work. That's what real integrity looks like. I looked at his hand, thought about what he was offering: permission to hide, permission to win, permission to become Senator Mitchell and forget this conversation ever happened. If you were in my position, what would you do? Stay in the race and hide the truth. Protect the campaign, the volunteers, the message about honest government, or walk away and prove that integrity actually matters, even when it costs you everything. There's no right answer. That's what made it impossible. I shook Tom's hand. I need to think about it. Don't think too long. The debate's in 3 weeks. We need you focused. I left without answering. Sophie was in the kitchen when I got home, making herself a sandwich, still wearing her Team Mitchell t-shirt. Hey, Dad! Thought you had campaign stuff all day. Finished early. How was Maya's? Good. We made 30 posters. Maya's mom is organizing a youth phone bank for the last week before the election. Can I help? We'll see. She studied my face. You okay? Yeah, just tired. Campaign's a lot. Is Mom coming home for dinner? I don't think so. She has a media thing. She's been gone a lot lately. Sophie's voice was casual, but there was something underneath, a question she wasn't quite asking. It's a busy time. Yeah. She took a bite of her sandwich. Dad, can I ask you something? My stomach tightened. Of course. You and Mom, you're okay, right? The question hung in the kitchen. Our kitchen. Where we'd had breakfast together thousands of times, where Sophie had learned to cook, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays and normal Tuesday nights. I could lie, should lie, protect her for a few more weeks until I figured out what to do. Why do you ask? Sophie shrugged. Wouldn't meet my eyes. I don't know. You guys seem different lately. Like you're pretending around each other. Kids see everything, even when you think you're hiding it. Things are complicated right now, I said carefully, with the campaign and everything. But after the election, things will be better. You'll have more time. I don't know, honey. Maybe. She set down her sandwich, looked at me directly. Dad, please just tell me the truth. Are you and Mom okay? I opened my mouth, closed it, thought about Tom Brady's advice, about protecting Sophie from the scandal, about waiting until after the election. We're going to be okay, I said finally, no matter what happens. It wasn't a lie, not exactly, but it wasn't the truth either. Sophie nodded slowly, like she didn't quite believe me, but was willing to let it go. Okay, well, I've got homework. Love you, Dad. Love you too, Sophie. She left the kitchen. I heard her bedroom door close. I stood there alone, thinking about lies and truth and what okay even meant anymore. Through the window, I could see our yard sign, the family photo, all 3 of us smiling, red, white, blue plastic. 4,000 of these across the district. What happens to all those signs if the truth comes out? What happens to Sophie when her friends see our family displayed on every street corner, knowing it was all a performance? My phone buzzed, text from Rebecca. We need to talk about Sophie. Can I come home? Another text. Frank. Daniel, you okay? Call me if you need to talk. Another. Graham, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. Sorry. Everyone was sorry, but sorry didn't unsleep with my wife. Sorry didn't unget her pregnant. Sorry didn't unmanipulate me into running for Senate so they could have cover for an affair. I went to Sophie's room, knocked softly. Come in. She was at her desk, calculus homework spread out, campaign posters on her walls, photos of her with volunteers, a framed picture of the 3 of us at the campaign launch, all smiling. Sophie, I need you to know something. She looked up, worried now. Whatever happens with the campaign, with Mom and me, with anything, you're what matters most. Not the election, not the Senate seat, you. Dad, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. Just know that, okay? Okay. I hugged her, held on maybe a little too long. When I left her room, I checked my phone. Another text. From Maya Rodriguez's mom, Linda. Daniel, this is Linda Rodriguez. I need to talk to you about Sophie. It's important. Can you call me? I called. Linda answered on the first ring. Daniel, thank you for calling. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but Maya is very worried about Sophie, and I think you need to know. Know what? Linda took a breath. Maya told me that Sophie has been upset lately, very upset, crying a lot. And when Maya asked what was wrong, Sophie said she knew something about you and Rebecca, something about your brother. My heart stopped. What do you mean she knew something? I don't know the details. Maya doesn't either. But Sophie told her she's been keeping a secret for about 2 months, that she overhead something, found something. She didn't want to ruin your campaign. 2 months? Sophie had known for 2 months. Linda, can Maya come to the phone? Of course. Maya. A moment later, Maya's voice, 15 years old, scared. Mr. Mitchell? Maya, I need you to be very honest with me. What did Sophie tell you? I promised I wouldn't say, Maya, please, this is important. Silence. Then, she found some papers in your office, like 2 months ago, debate prep notes or something. There was lipstick on them. She thought it was weird. Then later, she heard a phone call. Her mom talking to someone late at night. Saying things that... What things? Things about being together, about the campaign being worth it, about... Maya's voice dropped. About Uncle Graham. Oh God, Sophie knew. And Sophie's been carrying this? My voice sounded strange, distant. Yeah, she didn't want to tell you because the campaign was going so well, and she didn't want to mess it up. She said you were so happy, and she couldn't. She couldn't be the one to ruin it. How is she, Maya? Really? She's not okay, Mr. Mitchell. She cries herself to sleep. She's been having nightmares. She's pretending everything's fine, but she's not fine. I sat down hard. Sophie, my Sophie, 14 years old, knowing that her mother was having an affair with her uncle, keeping that secret to protect me, to protect the campaign, suffering alone for 2 months, while I smiled at rallies and wrote thank you cards and believed I was protecting her. Mr. Mitchell? Maya's voice was small. Is Sophie going to be okay? Yes, I said, though I had no idea if it was true. Thank you for telling me, Maya. You're a good friend. I hung up, sat in the kitchen. Sophie had known for 2 months. While I was maintaining my mask, she was maintaining hers. While I was pretending at rallies, she was pretending at school. While I was trying to protect her innocence, she was trying to protect my campaign. I'd failed her in every way that mattered. My phone buzzed one more time. Tom Brady. Daniel, thought about it? We need an answer. Stay in or drop out. What's it going to be? I looked at the campaign button on my shirt. Mitchell, teachers, not politicians. My face smiling up from the smooth plastic. I looked at the polling data Tom had given me, 54 to 39. I looked at Sophie's door, my daughter who'd been crying herself to sleep for 2 months. I thought about the students I'd taught for 12 years, about the question Emily Chen had asked. How do we know politicians are being honest? About my answer? You watch if they stay consistent with their values even when it hurts them. I pulled out my phone, started typing. I called Pastor James Wright at 1 a.m. He answered on the 3rd ring, voice thick with sleep. Daniel, what's wrong? I need your help. Tomorrow. Can you meet me and Sophie at the church around noon? Of course. What's this about? I need to tell my daughter the truth, and I need someone there who can help her through it. Silence. Then, I'll be there. Sophie and I drove to community church in silence. She knew something was coming, kept glancing at me, nervous. Dad, what's going on? We're going to talk, you, me, and Pastor Wright, about some things that have been happening. Is this about the campaign? It's about our family. Her face went pale. She knew. Of course she knew. Maya had said Sophie had been carrying this secret for 2 months. Pastor Wright was waiting in the sanctuary. Empty pews. Afternoon light streaming through stained glass windows. The same church where Sophie had been baptized, where Rebecca and I had gotten married 16 years ago. We sat in the front pew, Sophie between us. Sophie, I started. My voice cracked. I need to tell you something, and it's going to hurt, but I need you to know that I love you more than anything. That won't ever change. She was already crying. I know, Dad. Know what? About Mom. About Uncle Graham. The words hung in the sanctuary. Sacred space. Truth spoken aloud. How long have you known? I asked. 2 months. I found debate prep notes in your office. There was lipstick on them, Mom's shade, but they were Uncle Graham's notes. And then I heard Mom on the phone late one night, talking about being together, about the campaign being worth it. And you didn't tell me? Sophie's voice was small. You were so happy, Dad. The campaign was going so well. Everyone believed in you. I didn't want to be the one to ruin it. Oh, God. My 14-year-old daughter had been protecting me. Sophie, honey, you didn't ruin anything. They did. Your mom and Graham, not you. But if I'd told you sooner, it wouldn't have changed what they did. I pulled out the ultrasound envelope, the one I'd been carrying for days. Your mom is pregnant, 8 weeks. The baby is Graham's. Sophie stared at the envelope, her hands shaking. Pastor Wright put a steadying hand on her shoulder. What does that mean? Sophie asked. It means your mom and I are getting divorced. It means Graham won't be part of our lives anymore. It means things are going to change. What about the campaign? I looked at her, really looked at her. A 14 years old, trying to be strong, trying to hold together a family that was already broken. Sophie, I need to ask you something. Something I used to ask my students when they faced hard choices. She wiped her tears, waited. What would you tell your students? I asked. If you were the teacher and one of your students asked you whether winning was more important than telling the truth, what would you say? Sophie was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'd say truth matters more than winning. Even if it costs everything, especially then, because if you win by lying, you didn't really win. You just pretended better than everyone else. I pulled her close. She sobbed into my shoulder. Pastor Wright sat with us while Sophie cried, for her mother, for her uncle, for the family that wasn't coming back. When she finally pulled away, her voice was steady, stronger than mine. Dad, what are you going to do? I'm going to withdraw from the race. But you're winning. I know. Everyone's worked so hard. I know. The volunteers, Frank, all those people who believed in you. They believed in a message, Sophie, about honest government, about integrity mattering. If I stay in this race and hide what happened, I prove that the message was a lie. Sophie nodded slowly. Understanding. What would you tell your students, right? Right. She looked around the sanctuary, at the light through the stained glass, at the empty pews where she'd grown up hearing sermons about truth and grace and doing the right thing even when it's hard. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. Everyone at school is going to know. Probably. They're going to talk about it, about Mom, about us. Yeah, but we're still a team, you and me. I remembered her asking that same question 2 months ago, while placing campaign yard signs, before I knew about the affair, before everything fell apart. Always, I said. We're still a team, maybe the only team that matters. Pastor Wright spoke for the first time. Sophie, your father is making a very hard choice. The kind of choice that takes real courage, not the courage to win, the courage to lose for the right reasons. Sophie looked at me. When will you tell everyone? Tomorrow, press conference. I'll keep the details private. Just say there are personal family matters that require my attention. People will speculate, but I won't give them the whole story. That's ours, not theirs. Will I have to be there? Only if you want to be. She thought about it. I'll be there. Someone should stand with you when you tell the truth. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. Campaign headquarters, local media, state party officials, volunteers who'd given months of their lives. Sophie and I arrived early. Frank was there, Jenna, a handful of core volunteers. They knew something was wrong, could see it in my face. Rebecca showed up, stood at the back. Wouldn't meet my eyes. Graham wasn't there. I'd told him not to come. Tom Brady pulled me aside one last time. Daniel, you don't have to do this. We can still contain it. No, we can't. Think about what you're throwing away. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing something else. Choosing what? Losing? Choosing to mean what I said. That integrity matters, that we're not like the others. I walked to the podium, microphones, cameras, 18 staffers who'd worked endless hours, volunteers wearing Mitchell for Senate t-shirts, Frank in the front row, Pastor Wright beside him, my mother, who'd driven in from her senior living community, confused and worried. Sophie stood to my right, put her hand on my shoulder. The room quieted. I looked at my campaign button, Mitchell, teachers, not politicians, reached up, unpinned it, set it on the podium. Thank you all for coming, I said. I have an announcement to make. Phones out, recording. This would be all over social media within minutes. 7 weeks ago, when we started this campaign, I made a promise. I promised to run a different kind of race, to prove that honest people can still succeed in politics, to show my students, my former students, that integrity matters more than winning. Pause. The room was silent. Today, I'm keeping that promise. I could see confusion, concern. Personal family matters have come to light that require my full attention. Out of respect for my daughter and my family's privacy, I won't be discussing the details. But I've learned something important over the last few days. I've learned that you can't campaign on honesty while hiding the truth. You can't ask voters to trust you if you don't trust them with who you really are. More confusion. Frank's face showed he understood. Tom Brady's showed anger. So I'm withdrawing from the state Senate race, effective immediately. The room erupted, questions shouted, cameras flashing. Sophie's hand tightened on my shoulder. I raised a hand, waited for quiet. I want to be very clear. This isn't about giving up. This is about staying consistent with my values even when it hurts. That's what I taught for 12 years in the classroom. That's what I told voters during this campaign. And that's what I'm doing now. I looked at the volunteers, the ones who'd knocked on doors in the rain, who'd made phone calls until their voices were hoarse, who'd believed in the message. To everyone who worked on this campaign, you believed in something real. You believed that honest government was possible. That belief doesn't die with this announcement. It lives in every one of you. Keep fighting for it. Just fight for it with someone who can do the job without compromising what we stand for. I picked up the stack of handwritten thank you cards I'd brought, 200 of them, each one personal. I wrote these over the last 2 months, personal thank you notes to every volunteer. You'll get them this week, because even though I'm stepping away, your work mattered, your belief mattered, you mattered. Rebecca was crying in the back, silent tears. I looked at Sophie. My daughter reminded me today of something I used to tell my students. Truth matters more than winning, especially when it costs everything. Because if you win by lying, you didn't really win. Sophie smiled, sad but proud. I wanted to be different from other politicians, I said. I wanted to prove we're not all the same, that some of us actually mean what we say. Staying in this race would have made me exactly like them. So I'm choosing to be different in the way that actually matters. The room was silent now. Even the reporters had stopped shouting questions. I'm sorry I couldn't take this campaign all the way to victory, but I'm not sorry for this choice. Thank you for believing in the message. Please keep believing in it. I stepped away from the podium. Sophie and I walked out together. Behind us, chaos, questions, camera flashes, Tom Brady shouting something about damage control. Outside, in the parking lot, just Sophie and me and the afternoon sun. You okay? I asked. Are you? I don't know yet. Ask me in a few years. She hugged me. I'm proud of you, Dad. Those 4 words, worth more than any Senate seat. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Rebecca moved out within a week, went to stay with her sister in Madison, filed for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. We didn't fight it. The paternity test confirmed what we already knew. Graham's child, due in May. Graham's consulting business collapsed. Nobody in Wisconsin politics would hire him. The party blacklisted him. His clients dropped him. Within 2 months, he'd moved out of state. Trying to rebuild somewhere, nobody knew the story. My mother stopped speaking to him, told him he'd betrayed not just me, but everything our father had stood for. Rebecca and I worked out custody quickly, Sophie with me. Rebecca got visitation rights, supervised at first, then slowly more as Sophie healed. The baby. Rebecca decided on adoption, a private agency, closed adoption. A couple in their 30s who'd been trying to conceive for years. Teachers, actually. Good people who would give that child a chance at a life not defined by scandal. I signed off on the arrangements, made sure it was done right, made sure the adoptive parents were vetted thoroughly. That baby deserved better than being born into our mess. The campaign officially ended. My opponent, Senator Bradley, won re-election by 12 points, gave a victory speech about the importance of stability and experience. Some of my volunteers were angry, felt I'd abandoned them. Others understood, sent me letters saying they'd learned something important about integrity by watching what I did. Frank told me I'd taught his best lesson. Not in a classroom, he said. But still, best lesson you ever gave. I couldn't go back to teaching at Millbrook High. Too much attention, too many questions, too many students who'd worked on my campaign, whose parents had opinions about what I should have done. So I applied to districts in other parts of the state, found a position at a small high school 2 hours away. Fresh start. New students who didn't know my story. Sophie and I moved 6 months after the press conference. Small apartment, smaller life. But honest, real. The first day back in a classroom, I was nervous. 28 high school juniors staring at me. American history. The subject I'd taught for 12 years before everything changed. I'm Mr. Mitchell, I said. Some of you might have heard things about me, about a campaign I ran, about choices I made. That's all true. But today we're here to learn about history, about how people in the past made decisions, sometimes good ones, sometimes bad ones, and how those decisions shape the world we live in. A kid in the back raised his hand. Mr. Mitchell, did you really give up a Senate race because of, integrity or whatever? I smiled. I did. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most important. Was it worth it? I thought about that question, about everything I'd lost, the Senate seat, my marriage, my brother, my reputation, my career at the school where I'd taught for over a decade, but also what I'd kept, Sophie, my self-respect, the ability to look at myself in the mirror, the ability to stand in front of students and talk about integrity without being a hypocrite. Yes, I said, it was worth it. The kid nodded, satisfied. I still had the campaign button in my desk drawer. Mitchell, teachers, not politicians, kept it as a reminder, not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd chosen. Because I had been the teacher, not the politician. And that was enough. 2 years later, Sophie was 16, thriving at her new school, in therapy still, but healing, building a relationship with Rebecca that was different than before, more honest, more real. We'd gone back to Millbrook for a visit, drove past our old house, past the high school where I'd taught, past campaign headquarters, which was now a coffee shop. It's weird being back, Sophie said. Yeah. Do you miss it? Sometimes, but I like where we are now. We stopped at Frank's house. He'd retired from teaching, spent his days fishing and reading and occasionally consulting on local campaigns. Daniel, he hugged me. Sophie, look at you, all grown up. We sat on his porch, drank lemonade, talked about teaching, about Sophie's college plans, about the small life we'd built in our new town. You know, Frank said, there's a school board race here this fall. 3 open seats. Millbrook needs people who actually care about education. I laughed. Frank, I'm not running for anything ever again. Not a big campaign, just local, school board. You'd be good at it. And people remember what you did. Most of them respect it now. Time's passed. Wounds have healed. I don't know. Dad, Sophie interrupted. You should do it. Sophie, no, seriously. You taught me that truth matters more than winning. But you also taught me that service matters, that showing up matters. You could help the schools here, make them better. It would mean being back in the spotlight, a small spotlight, school board, not Senate. Frank nodded. She's right, and this time you'd do it the right way. No secrets, no campaign manager who's sleeping with your wife. I winced. Frank had earned the right to dark humor about it. Think about it, he said. I did think about it for 3 months, and then I filed paperwork, Millbrook School Board, at-large seat, small campaign. Just me and Sophie, no big staff, no strategy sessions, no late nights with consultants, just honest service. The kind I should have run the first time. Sophie made signs with me in our garage, simple design, just my name, just the 2 of us in the photo this time. No Rebecca, no false family unity. Mitchell for schools, honest service. We placed them around town. Sophie's friends volunteered. Maya Rodriguez, Emily Chen, who was home from college, former students who remembered me, parents who'd watched what I did 2 years ago and understood why. No campaign buttons this time, no slick mailers, just door knocking, just conversations, just showing up. One afternoon, a woman answered her door, looked at me, recognized me. You're the one who dropped out, she said. I am. My daughter had you for AP History. She said you were the best teacher she ever had. Thank you. She also said what you did. walking away from that Senate race, taught her more than any lesson you gave in class. I felt my throat tighten. That's kind of her to say. It's true. She's studying political science at Madison now, wants to work in government, says she wants to be the kind of public servant you tried to be. After she closed the door, Sophie looked at me. See? It mattered. What? What you did. Choosing truth over winning. It mattered. We kept walking, kept knocking, kept having conversations. At a coffee shop one morning, a student, my former student, recognized me. Mr. Mitchell, I heard you're running for school board. I am. That's great. Can I volunteer? Sure. Why? The student, his name was Marcus, I remember teaching him, leaned forward. Because you taught me something important. You taught me that sometimes the right choice is the hard choice. That integrity actually means something. I want to help elect someone who actually believes that. Sophie and I ran a quiet campaign. Small town, local issues, teacher pay, school funding, curriculum decisions. Nothing dramatic, nothing scandalous, just service. Election night was at the community center, small crowd, maybe 60 people. When the results came in, I won by 18 points. Sophie hugged me. You did it, Dad. We did it. No big campaign, no perfect family image, she said. Just us. And it was enough. My first school board meeting was on a Tuesday night. 7 board members, superintendent, about 25 community members in the audience. I took my oath. Same oath I would have taken as senator, but smaller, local, real. After the meeting, Frank found me in the parking lot. How does it feel? He asked. Different? Better? You know what the difference is? What? This time, you didn't have to leave behind who you are to win. He was right. I drove home. Sophie was doing homework in her room. I went to my desk, opened the drawer, found the old campaign button. Mitchell, teachers not politicians. I'd been both now, teacher and politician, but not at the same time. I put the button back in the drawer, closed it. In 2 years, Sophie would go to college. I'd serve out my school board term, maybe run again, maybe not. The work would continue either way. The next day I was back in my classroom, 2 hours from Millbrook, the school where I'd rebuilt my life. A student raised her hand. Mr. Mitchell, I saw you won your school board race. Congratulations. Thank you. Can I ask you something? Of course. Would you ever run for office again? Like, bigger office? I looked at the photo on my desk. Sophie and me. Campaign yard sign. In the background. Small race. Honest campaign. Real victory. I did, I said. I ran from the person I was becoming. Best campaign I ever lost. The student looked confused. What I mean is, winning isn't always about crossing the finish line first. Sometimes it's about running the race in a way you can be proud of, even if you don't win, especially if you don't win. She nodded slowly, understanding. Daniel and Sophie redefined what family means. Not who you're born to, but who shows up, who stands with you when everything falls apart, who helps you rebuild after the world ends. If you've built your own chosen family, the friends who became siblings, the mentors who became parents, the people who stayed when blood relatives left, I want to hear about them. Tell me their stories in the comments. And if this story moved you, if you believe integrity matters more than winning, subscribe. I tell stories about hard choices, second chances, and the courage it takes to choose truth over everything else. I'll see you in the next one. We're not like the others. That's what I said at my campaign launch 2 years ago. Believing it meant something. Believing I was different. I was wrong. We are like the others. Everyone is. Everyone faces moments where winning means compromising who they are. Everyone gets tempted to hide the truth for a good cause. The difference isn't whether you face those moments. It's what you do when you do. I chose truth. It cost me a Senate seat. Cost me my marriage. Cost me my brother. Cost me the life I'd built. But it gave me something else. It gave me Sophie's respect, my students' trust, my own ability to stand in front of a classroom and talk about integrity without feeling like a fraud. It gave me the chance to run again, smaller, quieter, honest. 2 years later, Sophie and I stood in a parking lot after my school board victory, just the two of us. No big campaign, no perfect family image, just us, and that was enough. Ready to go home, Dad? Sophie asked. Home, a small apartment 2 hours from Millbrook, a teaching job at a school where nobody knew my story, a school board seat serving a community that had forgiven me. Not the life I'd planned, but real, honest, mine. Yeah, I said, let's go home. We got in the car, campaign yard signs still in the back seat, the new ones, just Sophie and me. Mitchell for schools, honest service. She looked at them, smiled. This time we did it right, Dad. This time we did. Because this time we were actually who we said we were, and that made all the difference.